I guess it's time to teach the Shia some Islam.
So the person that has a problem with Ali alayhi salam and is a hypocrite is now going to teach Islam to me, yeah? Okay, go ahead.
I think it's time for me to give them some information about what is okay and what is not okay to say in Islam generally, okay? When you say Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, okay, so there's no two pronunciation, okay? It's not always Ya ayyuhan nabi.
So I didn't say Ya ayyuhan nabi, right? Literally, the comment is in front of you, bro. It's on top of your head. Use your head. I did not use the word Ya and then ayyuhan at the same time, okay? So at least read. Can you show me the word Ya there? No, you can't.
By the way, you can even say that for Ali or for Hussein. You can say Assalamu alayka ya Hussein. No problem.
Wait, so you can say Assalamu alayka ya Hussein? Are you sure? Because Ya is harf nida, is to call out to someone. So something that you previously said was shirk, now all of a sudden it's fine. So you can say Assalamu alayka ya Hussein. You can call on Hussein, yeah? But clearly you don't know Arabic syntax or morphology. Let me teach you some sarf and nahu, okay? Here we go. The phrase ayyuhan nabi contains the word ayyuhan, which is a word that is used for calling out or addressing someone directly. This is called harfin nida. The word alayka phrase with a pronoun. The pronoun is the qa at the end of the word. The second person singular masculine meaning upon you, alayka, right? Second person pronouns are only used when directly addressing someone, not indirectly. And the sentence Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi is in the second person direct address, not indirect speech. This is a divine order from God for you to address the Prophet directly. What does Allah say? Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So God is telling you to directly address the Prophet and send blessings upon him.
As long as you give in something, it's fine. You give in salam, you give in salat, which is prayer. As long as you are doing prayer for someone, it's fine. When you're saying assalamu alayka, you're giving salam to someone, even if he's dead, it's fine. But when you are saying Ya Ali, for example, madad, madad means you're in distress. You're asking help from someone who is dead. You're not giving salam. You're asking for something. That's the problem. When you're saying, Ya Ali, give me this, Ya Ali. Now, that's the part that is not okay. You cannot ask help from a dead person.
Oh, he's dead, is he? Quran chapter 2 verse 154. And do not think of those who have been slain in the way of God as dead. Nay, they are living, but you perceive it not. Imam Ali, Shaheed, he's not dead, bro. Jami' Tirmizi 3578, right? So he's basically saying you cannot, so you can say Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, that's fine, but you can't say Ya Ali Madad, you can't say Ya Muhammad Madad, you can't ask, you can give salam, but you can't ask for anything, right? Let me prove you wrong using Sunni sources, okay? Jami' Tirmizi 3578 narrated Uthman bin Hunayf. A blind man came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and said, supplicate to God for me, Ya Rasulullah. The Prophet said, I will teach you a dua, a supplication. So he went, he performed his ablution, he prayed, and then the Prophet said to him, say, Oh Allah, I ask you, and turn towards you by your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, the Prophet of mercy, concerning this need of mine, so that it can be resolved. What did the Prophet say to him? Allahumma inni as'aluka wa atawajjahu ilayka bin nabiyyika Muhammadin nabiyyir rahmati. So this shows us that we can go to the Prophet for our needs and desires and ask for things, right? Now, this story of Uthman bin Hunayf and the blind man and the Prophet, it can also be found in Sunan Ibn Majah 1385 and Musnad Ahmad ibn Hanbal, volume 4, page 138. The only difference in wording is these two narrations that I mentioned, they use the word Ya Muhammad. So he says, for example, Allahumma inni as'aluka wa atawajjahu ilayka bin nabiyyika Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi nabiyyir rahmah Ya Muhammad. So he's saying Ya Muhammad. The Prophet is telling him to say Ya Muhammad. So he's directly invoking the Prophet. Now, yeah, maybe you could come forward and say, oh, but that was when the Prophet was alive, right? You can't do it after he's dead. Okay, let me show you people that came to the grave of the Prophet and addressed him in his grave and said, Ya Muhammad, which you're saying is shirk, right? We look at the Quran in chapter 4, Surah Nisa, verse 64, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when you had done injustice to yourselves, had you gone to the Prophet and asked him to ask Allah for forgiveness, and you ask Allah for forgiveness, you would find Allah oft forgiving and merciful, right? We'll start off by looking at Tafsir Kabir by Fakhruddin al-Razi, a Sunni Mufassir of the Quran. Underneath this verse, he says they should ask the Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, to seek forgiveness for them. Ask the messenger. Then we look at Tafsir ibn Kathir, again a Sunni. He says that Shaykh Abu Nasr in his book says the famous story of Al-Atbi. Right? What's the story? He says that Al-Atbi says, I was sitting at the grave of the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, so the Prophet's passed away now, when a Bedouin came and said, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. So already here he's addressing the Prophet, he's saying Ya. But you said it's okay to say Ya as long as you're giving something, yeah? You just can't take anything, okay? What happened? He's addressing the Prophet in the grave, and then he quotes chapter 4, verse 64, where he says, when we had done injustice, had we come to you, and you sought forgiveness for us. So he says, Ya Rasulullah, I've come to you seeking your forgiveness for my sin and seeking your intercession with my Lord. Okay? So here he's asking for something. He's asking for forgiveness for his sins. He's not just giving him salams anymore. He's requesting something from what you call a dead man in his grave, right? Then what happened? The narrator says he left the Bedouin, and At-Tabi says, I fell asleep and I saw the Prophet in my dream, and the Prophet said, oh, At-Tabi, follow the Bedouin and tell him the good news that God has forgiven him. Here's the Arabic scan, right? So calling upon the Prophet is shirk, yet you do it in your prayer every day. Calling upon the Prophet is shirk, yet this hadith from At-Tabi shows that a person came to the Prophet's grave and he was forgiven. This story of the Bedouin is also narrated by Imam al-Nawawi in his Kitab al-Majmu', volume 8, page 256. And let me give you another one, right? So that's one, here's another one. So Tabrani mentions in his book on page 129 a tradition that Haythami authenticated it in his Majmu' al-Zawaid, volume 2, hadith 3668. He says that a person repeatedly visited Uthman bin Affan, but Uthman paid no attention to him, so he complained to Uthman bin Hunayf. Uthman bin Hunayf told him to invoke the Prophet. He said, Ya Muhammad. And then later on, Uthman met him and did what he wanted him to do. So here's the scan for that. Let me give you another one, right? Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shaybah, volume 11, page 118, hadith 32,538. Ibn Hajar Asqalani in his Fathul Bari, volume 2, page 495 says the chain is authentic. And Ibn Kathir in his Bidayah wa Nihaya, volume 5, page 167, also authenticated the chain. What does it say? Malik ad-Dar, who was Umar's treasurer, he says that there was a drought in Medina. We went to the Prophet's grave. A man came and said, Ya, so not even salam, just Ya Rasulullah, we need rain. And it says that the Prophet appeared to him in a dream and it rained. Here's the Arabic. And finally, here's one from Imam Ali, Tafsir al-Thalabi. Under the verse of chapter 4, verse 64, a person came to the grave of the Prophet and asked for forgiveness. And Imam Ali says the voice of the Prophet came from the grave and said, you're forgiven. This is also in Kanzul Amal, volume 2, page 386. So educate yourself.
You cannot ask help and you say, Ya Fulan, Ya Mohammed, Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, someone who's already dead cannot help you. You can say Assalamu alayka ya Hussein. No problem.
So educate yourself.